Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of 30th September 2024. So here we are going to discuss the articles which are relevant from our examination point of view. And if you are watching this analysis, please do watch daily, because if you see this mains 2024 mains of UPSC, most of the questions from GS 1, 2, 3 and 4 reflected from our current affairs. About 80% of questions that came from my analysis. So please don't skip my analysis, and if you want to clear this examination, so this is the way to read current affairs. I'm not deviating here and there, so just focusing on what exactly UPSC needs. I'm focusing on that, and even how you have to use these articles to write your mains answer, I'm also focusing on that. I'm also telling you like how you can expect case studies, that thing which happened. And if you're watching our analysis from at least from last 6 months, you will be knowing about the importance of my current affairs and how it is different from any others. Okay, so let's get started. So let us see the first article. 92% of workers cleaning urban sewers, septic tanks are from SC, ST, OBC groups, says the survey. So if you go back to 2024 mains paper, there was one question about what are the challenges faced by this SC, ST and OBC. Can you include this article there? Yes, with data, right? So in this way, whenever I'm saying any data which is relevant, so please try to make a note of that. So what is the key words which are given in this article? It is saying about urban cleaning sewers, and second it is talking about marginalized sections of society. So before that, I want to make a small announcement. We in Rathod IAS, we started this prelims test series yesterday. Okay, so here we are going to give you 35 tests, which includes 10 subject wise, 10 sectional and 5 current affairs based and 5 CSAT and full length test. So the cost is very minimal, just 100 rupees per test. So try to take this an opportunity to clear your prelims, because whatever the questions we are giving, they are based on the recent trends of UPSC, and even we are covering current affairs, which will be the maximum part of your paper. Okay, so if you want to join this and if you want to contact us directly, you can contact us on the number which is given on the screen. Okay, don't forget. So as I said, what is a keyword in the first article? It is about marginalized sections of society. Marginalized sections. And second one is manual scavenging. So from which subjects you can deal with these articles? So in your GS paper 2, in your society and social issues, you will be studying about this marginal sections of people, and you will be saying like what are the challenges you are facing, and you have to see what are the constitutional provisions which are guaranteeing the fundamental rights of this marginalized sections, and you have to see about what are the laws or acts which are present in our country which provide security for this marginalized sections of people, and you have to see what is the way forward. So what can you do extra to address the challenges of this marginalized sections of society? So all these are the dimensions you have to see. And if you see here, what is the meaning of manual scavenging? So while reading your NCERT books, you will be reading some stories like, so and so woman, she is carrying some poop of humans on her head. So that is the meaning of this manual scavenging. So earlier, we don't have this washrooms, latrines, etc. And now we are talking about even green technology in this converting of poop into energy, right? Okay, so now manual scavenging is nothing but, so people, they used to clean this dry latrines with their hand, and they used to carry that waste on their head. That is called as manual scavenging. And who used to or do this works? Mostly people who are belonging to the lower sections of society, that is SCs, that is scheduled caste people. They will be doing this work of manual scavenging. Okay, so you have to understand what is the meaning of manual scavenging. So why the scheduled caste people, they do that? So if you go back to Vedic system, so we used to have Chaturvarna system, right? Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras. So these were the 4 Varna system that we used to have. And based on this also you got question in your GS paper 1 2024 mains, that is the first question. What are the differences between early Vedic and later Vedic period? So one example that you can quote is Varna system. So how this Varna system is different from early Vedic to later Vedic. You can add one point and you can draw this map so that you can enhance your presentation. So whatever you are reading in current affairs, try to interlink them with your mains, okay? So during early Vedic period, this Varna system is based on occupation, on what work you are doing. And later on, it became very rigid when you came to this later Vedic. Now it is based on birth. So earlier, this concept was very flexible. That means if you are changing your occupation, you can change your caste. But in later Vedic period, so it became very rigid. So if you want to so and so community, then you have to stay in that caste and you have to continue in that caste till death, right? So actually these SCs and STs, they were out of this Varna system. Okay, they were out of this Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Sudras, and they involved in this work of manual scavenging. And after we got independence, that is in this post-independent period, yes, government came up with providing fundamental rights. For example, untouchability, Article 17 in our constitution. And not only that, government came up with many laws to decrease discrimination against these marginalized sections of people, like Manual Scavenging Abolition Act. For example, Forced Labor Abolition Act, Bonded Labor Abolition Act, Slavery Abolition Act. Despite of all those steps taken by government, still there is manual scavenging going on. You know that we are very much advanced in our science and technology. We are exploring moon, we are exploring Venus, we are exploring sun, even Mars, and we are carrying humans to space. And recently one private space mission of America had been success, right? Then why not we invent such a technology for cleaning of this sewers, drainage, etc. Okay, so here because of this manual scavenging, can I say it is a very dirty work? It is a very unsanitated work. There is no sanitation here, right? So because of this, there is increasing of deaths of this manual scavengers. So here you have to know about data regarding deaths. And you have to see the highlights of this report. You have to see the highlights of this report and you have to make some perspectives regarding this article. So all these are the dimensions that you have to see from this article. Okay, now let us see this article. It is saying that a recent survey reveals that 91.9% of 38,000 workers who are cleaning sewers in urban areas and even in septic tanks, so they belongs to which caste? Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and OBC. They belongs to marginalized sections of our community. And actually government came up with one scheme called as Namaste program. So in this Namaste program, they want to mechanize this work of sewage cleaning, drainage cleaning, etc. rather than going for this manual scavenging. So if you are writing any answer regarding manual scavenging, if you are writing about any measures taken by the government, you can add this Namaste scheme. It is very, very important. So why this Namaste scheme? We have to use machines rather than humans to clean this drainage so that we can decrease the deaths of manual scavenging, because it is hazardous cleaning, because it includes dangerous superbugs, it includes dangerous microorganisms which can cause harm to your health. And next one here is despite of the government efforts. So how many deaths had happened regarding this manual scavengers from 2019? More than 317 manual scavengers had been lost their life because there is no proper safety training. Okay, so that is the thing that you have to remember. So what are the key points that you can understand? Yes, despite of lot of steps taken by the government, lots of acts, everything, Yes, still this manual scavenging is going on. That means, can we say that social inequalities are persisting in the labor distribution? Yes, there are still the social inequalities are there in this labor distribution, so that it is affecting legal frameworks which are designed to help this manual scavengers. For example, Manual Scavenging Abolition Act. And next one here is, yes, if you see the death toll, it is more than 377. So it is saying that this work is very, very dangerous, and this is even hazardous as well. So government need to take some steps immediately to protect these workers, because they are working in a very dangerous conditions. And next one here is, if you see the scope of this Namaste scheme, so this scheme which indicates that yes, there is a need of shift towards work regarding this drainage and sanitation. Yes, not only man or humans, we have to use the technology so that we can reduce manual labor, and even we can enhance the safety of the worker who are working here, so that we can also focus on sustainable employment practices in the urban areas, in urban sanitation. And this one here is, yes, if you're doing this kind of surveys, so what is the advantage? We will be getting enough data. So if we want to know like whether the schemes are adequate or not, if we want to know like what are the work we are doing that is getting positive outcomes or not, we need this kind of surveys. So data driven approach is very, very important, so that we can get the clear picture of workforce and even how the government interventions are helping them. Okay, or else if we need any policy changes, or if we need any new scheme, or if we increase, if there is any need to increase the resource allocation, so based on that government can take a proper decision. So for that, this kind of service is very, very important. And even so, actually this article is saying that here concept of transforming this sewer workers to sanitarians, that means nothing but the people who had worked as sanitation workers, they can start their entrepreneurs here, like they can sell some equipment that will be useful for cleaning of the sanitation, because those people, they know like what exactly the problems of facing in this drainage system, not we or you, right? So here we can develop this sewer workers as sanitarians, so that we can also focus on economic and upliftment of this marginalized sections of people, so that they will be getting proper training, proper support from the government, so that we can also enhance GDP outcome from these people also. And next one here is, if you see from one state to another state, what the some state governments are taking the steps, they are effectively working, but it is not happening throughout our country evenly. So it is also one important problem, especially if you see southern states compared to northern states. In southern states, government are taking lots and lots of steps to protect the rights of these marginalized sections. For example, Kerala and as well as Karnataka. So that is the thing that you can see about. And actually there is a controversy which is going on regarding manual scavenging. That is like manual scavenging has ended raised questions about accuracy of data, and as well as ongoing reality of many workers. And actually they are saying that there is lack of complaints regarding the deaths, and even better monitoring and as well as supporting system for this workers. So because of this also there is some controversy which is going on. So these are the key points that you have to grasp from this article. So now let us see about this Namaste scheme. So when it was launched in year 2022, and it is a center sector scheme. That means 100% of funds from this scheme that will comes from central government. So there is no need of states to sponsor for this scheme. And under which ministry it is taken care of? Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And this is very, very important point for your prelims. And the important aim of the scheme, it is to eradicate unsafe seafarer and as well as septic tank cleaning practices. So what are the objectives? They are focusing on zero fatalities, that is deaths regarding this manual scavenging, first one, because we are replacing humans with technology. And next one is all sanitation work is performed by skilled workers by using machines and technology. Next one is no sanitation workers come in direct contact with human fecal matter. So this is very important. And next one is sanitation workers are collectivized to self-help groups, and they will be getting empowered to run sanitation enterprises now. So even when you are reading about this SHG, so SHG topic you will be reading in governance part. So whenever you are reading or making notes of this SHG, so try to include this Namaste program, which is focusing on sanitation enterprises. Okay, that will be run through the self-help groups. And next one is they want to even improve monitoring of works at the national level, state level, and as well as at the local level, so that they can focus on proper enforcement and as well as monitoring of safe sanitation work in India. So these are the important aims and objectives of this Namaste scheme. Okay, now let us see the next very interesting article. So can you see the image? What is it talking about? What do you understand by the image? What do you understand by this image here? Glaciologist digs deep into permafrost to gauge future climate change disaster. So what is the meaning of permafrost? I think you might have studied in your environment and geography. What is this permafrost? Permafrost. Perma means permanent. Frost means water in the form of ice. That is permanent ice. Where it is present? At the deeper layers, especially in the polar areas, in the third pole areas, we will be having this permafrost. So here, if you understand about this permafrost, what can you get? So if you are studying about this permafrost, what are the interpretations that you can get? So what is the advantage of reading or understanding about this permafrost? So it formed some million years ago, so that you can understand the life which was present at the million years. And even you know that climate change is happening. So because of this climate change, what happened? Melting of this ice will happen. That will lead to booming of new life. Yes or no? So actually one problem that we are going to get in the future because of this climate change is spreading of new life forms. And we don't know like how it will be having impact with the humans, because whenever this climate change is happening and the melting of glaciers is happening, do you know that? So the last glacier of one country had been melted recently, that was in news. So that means if the permafrost had been melted, means what happened? If there are any life in the inactivated form, so that will come into blooming, right? So the life of new will be coming into picture. So if humans are going there and if humans are intervening or coming into contact with them, so we don't know like whether we will be getting positive or negative impacts on the life of human, right? So now this article is saying that climate change disaster. So actually one glaciologist, the person who studies the glacier is called as glaciologist. She digs deep into permafrost and they try to start their studies on what will be the impact of climate change on these glaciers and how this future climate change disasters will happen. So as of now, you studied about only natural disasters and man-made disasters. So here we are going to have one more word soon, that is called as climate change disaster. Okay. So now where you can study this article? So keyword is climate change disaster. So you can read this topic in GS paper 3 under disaster management, and even from your GS paper 3 under environment and ecology, and even you can read this from your science and technology from GS paper 3. So from disaster management, you have to see what will be the future impact of climate change disaster, and you have to see what are the measures can be taken by the government to address this climate change disasters. And from environment and ecology, you have to see just climate change. What is the meaning of climate change? What are the causes of this climate change? And what will be the impact of climate change? And next, you have to see what are the acts or laws or conventions regarding this climate change. Especially you have to see about this Paris Climate Deal, COP28 highlights and carbon neutrality and the different countries' nationally determined contributions. And especially you have to know like what are India's nationally determined contributions to control this climate change. And from science and technology, you have to see how can we use this science and technology for advancement of this climate change, and how we can control this climate change. For example, climate change or global warming is especially caused by carbon dioxide emissions, right? So how we are capturing that carbon dioxide emissions? For example, we can capture this by increasing of trees, that is afforestation methods, and even carbon sinks we have oceans. Apart from that, we are also having technology to absorb this carbon dioxide. So do you know China is having a technology of absorbing this carbon dioxide, and that carbon will be compressed and they are making diamonds, artificial diamonds. So in that way, how can we use technology for economic development? So in that way, you have to see this, okay? So now let us see what this article is talking about. So glaciologist as a part of India's Arctic expedition. So what is this India's Arctic expedition? Where is this Arctic region is located? Arctic region. So this is our globe, 0 degrees, 30 degrees north, 60 degrees north, 90 degrees north, 30 degrees south, 60 degrees south, and 90 degrees south, where we have this Arctic region. And yes, so here from 60 degrees north we have this Arctic region, right? So 30 degrees to 30 degrees we will be calling it as tropic region, and 30 degrees to 60 degrees north and south we will be having temperate region, and here we have 90 degrees polar region, right? Okay, so here 60 degrees north we will be having Arctic region, that is called as Arctic Circle. So what is this India's Arctic expedition? So why we are going for research in this Arctic region? Why? What is the reason? Arctic region, what is the importance of Arctic region? You need to know that. Arctic region, what we will be having? Whether we will be having land or water? Okay, water in the form of ice. Very good. So why we are going for expedition there? So do you know about India's things there? Do you have any India's research stations in Arctic region? Have you heard about this anywhere? Himadri. How many are there? Actually, we have 3 research centers there, but one had been drowned. Only 2 are working now. Do you know this? Okay, you have to focus on this. So actually here, our glaciologist, as a part of India's Arctic expedition, they are studying about this permafrost at Himadri. Himadri is one of the research station of our country which is present in Norway, and they are studying about how this climate change related disaster we are going to have. Because normally ice will be present at the polar regions, North Pole and South Pole. But in India, we have the ice formation and glaciers we are having in this Himalayas. So if something is happening in the poles, obviously we will be also having that. So here we need to be extra cautious because of climate change. So this polar region, that is third pole, it is present in India. So we will be getting more affected compared to that of other countries, right? So here with the permafrost thawing, what is the meaning of thawing? Thaw. T-H-A-W. Thawing means nothing but melting. So permafrost is melting because of global warming, that is increasing of temperature. So because of this, it is having it will be having impact on the local infrastructure. So that we need to focus on providing of early warning to the people and as well as communities regarding what is going to happen in the future. So what are the interpretations that you have to get? The first one is, yes, because of melting of permafrost, because of rising temperature, it is going to have the significant risk on infrastructure. Not only that, but even melting, even ecosystem. Do you know about this? Because of climate change, recently glacial lake outburst floods happened, right? And even there are many reports saying that there is increasing of number of glacial lake in our Himalayas because of increasing of climate change. So if they are bursting, that will lead to floods that had happening in the recent past, right? So here it is going to have the impact on infrastructure. How? So as you all know that this perennial rivers, river Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra, they are the major water sources for our country, right? And we have lots and lots of dams. We have constructed for hydroelectricity power and as well as irrigation purposes. So if suddenly glacial lake outburst flood happen, So this infrastructure like dams will be getting exhausted, right? It will be having damage, right? For example, Vishnugarh Dam, which had been damaged because of this glacial lake outburst flood. So we have to know that. And this one here is, yes, we are having the deficit of local knowledge. So here, especially people who are living in this Himalayas, they know about that. Not you and me. We are present in this south. So we know about exactly what is happening in this Western Ghats, what is happening in the this peninsula rivers, but we don't know exactly what is happening in the Himalayas. So here local people need to play a very important role. They have to understand how the changes is happening, and those people will be getting affected more than people who are in south if something happens in the northern part. So here there is a need of disaster preparedness, there is a need of early warning system, and even whichever the infrastructure they are having vulnerability, yes, they need to be taken care of by the government. And next one here is, there is a link to natural disaster. So actually, yes, there is a relation between permafrost and as well as glacial lake flooding. So it is very important. Now we have to predict the number of glacial lakes in this Himalayas and whether how the water level is increasing in that lake. So once water level is increased beyond their capacity, then what happens? That will lead to bursting of the boundaries of that lake. That will lead to glacial lake outburst flood. So we need to mitigate the future disasters in this region. And even we have to focus on empowering of local communities regarding the knowledge of permafrost so that we can ensure safety and resilience in this region. And even we have to focus on technological integration, like we are sending lots and lots of satellites, like remote sensing satellites and navigation satellites, etc. So we have to use the images of that satellites, and we have to go for mapping of permafrost. And next one here is, actually here, do you know about this polar bears? So whenever, if the habitat is going to change, if it is going to have the changes in the future, so you know that the biodiversity which is present that in that area, they can examine what is going to happen in the future, right? The future perspective will be very high for even animals. So here, because of the melting of permafrost, it is having impact on the polar bears, and even their migration is happening now. So here we have to know that if there is something which is happening on the biodiversity of that region, so we have to take some steps to control that, okay? Because the nature is the good sensor than anything. Okay, so next here, if you see the image, this is Arctic region and this is our Arctic Circle. So there may be a question from your examination in your prelims, like which of the following countries are part of your Arctic Circle, and you have to see the country's name. First one is Russia, we have Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Greenland, Canada and Alaska. Alaska is nothing but USA. So these are the countries which are part of this Arctic Circle, and you have to remember them. So I think in your IR you will be studying about this. Okay, so Arctic region, where it is located in the northernmost part of Earth. And next one here is, which are the countries part of this Arctic Circle, you have to see this. And actually this region experiences extreme cold temperature, and mostly the water is in the ice. And actually why we are going for expedition of this Arctic region? So what is the importance of the Arctic region? We have to know that. Then only we can understand that why every country is doing research in this Arctic region. So if you see the economic significance, so this region which is having the very rich deposits of coal, gypsum and diamonds, and even it is having the reserves of zinc, lead, placer, gold and quartz. And actually, do you know about this Greenland? So Greenland is having quarter of world's rare earth reserves. So actually we are fighting for rare earth reserves, right? And even recently, why it is in news, antimony export from this China has been banned. It is one of the critical mineral which is responsible for the economic development of any country. So here we are having critical rare earth metals here. So for this, every country is fighting now. And next one here is geographical significance. So actually Arctic region which helps us circulate the world's ocean currents. So do you know about this ocean currents? That is movement of water which happens, and we have surface currents and we have deep water currents, and we have warm and cold based on the temperature. So what is the important significance of this ocean currents? Why we need this? What happens if we don't have this ocean currents? Only monsoon? Redistribution of temperature, yes. Okay, so the moving of cold and warm currents around the globe, it happens, we know that. But in the Arctic Sea, because of huge, even we are having ice is nothing but it is in white color. So do you know about this heat budget? What is this heat budget? Amount of heat absorbed is equal to amount of heat reflected. So if you're not having this glaciers, if the melting of glacier is happening, so can we maintain this heat budget? No, because glaciers play a very important role in albedo. What does this word albedo means? Albedo. Reflection, yes. Reflection of sunlight is called as albedo. So if we are having less number of glaciers means obviously the albedo will be decreased and further it will lead to increasing of global temperature. Okay, so for that we need this Arctic region, and next one is it is also having geopolitical significance. So whenever the melting of this Arctic ice is happening, then what happens? Ice is converted into water. So we can explore new sea lanes, yes or no? So it is the idea behind the Russia. Russia will be having huge leverage to use most of this Arctic water for its navigation purpose. And even China is also using that under part of BRI. So again, it is one of cause of concern for India. And if you see the environmental significance, Arctic region and Himalayas, they are even, if you see the geographically, so Arctic region is present in temperate region, and this India is normally called as tropical country, right? Because of the temperature, because of the circumstances of India, we are saying this as like tropical region, but even though some part of India lies in the temperate region. So here, if you see Arctic and Himalayas, even though they are different, if you compare the geography, but they are interconnected because of similar concerns. For example, if Arctic melting is happening, it will be having impact on the global glaciers, global water, and as you all know that each and every ocean is interconnected. If one sea is increasing the water, one ocean, if there is increasing of water, obviously that will be moving to the another regions. So actually, because of the presence of glaciers, we are calling India as the third pole, which is having the similar conditions of North Pole and as well as South Pole. Okay, so these are the different significance of Arctic region that you need to know. And see here, next article, center hell bent on inflicting ecological disaster, Congress on Nicobar project. We are not going into the depth like what Congress party is saying on what is the ruling party now. We are not going to see that. But here, the important thing is just revise about this Nicobar project. So what does this Nicobar project is about? Yes, building infrastructure in this Nicobar Island. Where it is located, Nicobar? Where is this located? So from which topic or which subject we can read this? From GS paper 3, environment and ecology, and even from GS paper 1 under geography, and in GS paper 3 under infrastructure. Okay. So if you see the context, it says that now one of the MP he's saying that yes, whenever we are going for this Nicobar project, it will be having potential ecological and humanitarian disaster it is going to happen in the future. Okay, so how it is going to cause this ecological and humanitarian disaster? So what are the ideas that you have? So how it is causing disaster? Tell me. Deforestation of trees, okay. Okay, displacement of tribes in this Andaman and Nicobar. Next. Next. Okay, global warming. Okay, next. What happens if you're going for development in this ecologically sensitive region? Yes, biodiversity. Can you give me some examples of animals which are present here which are going to be affected? Leatherback turtles. Next. Next. Okay. So let us see this article. So here, because of this Great Nicobar project, it is going to threaten biodiversity. For example, leatherback turtles. so that we need to take some urgent steps to maintain sustainable development practices. So whenever we are going for any development projects, we have to focus on sustainable development. And next one is, yes, government is having conflict of interest now, like whether we have to go for development or whether we have to focus on environment. So this concept we will be studying in our environmental ethics in GS paper 4. So there we will be taking like what will be the ethical dilemmas. So if you are getting any case study regarding environmental ethics, obviously you will be getting case studies regarding environment and economy for sure, but this year you didn't get. But earlier there were a number of case studies which mainly gives you dilemma regarding whether you have to take step for environment proposal or economic development or like saving of local people. Like that you will be getting questions in your ethics. So we will be discussing that, and there we will be taking many examples in our country where the environmental ethics is there. And next one here is, so actually whatever the expert committee which had been made, established to see about this issue, so in that expert committee there were no independent experts. So because of this, again one cause of concern here is, so whatever the recommendations will be given by this committee will be biased towards the ruling party. And next one here is, there is no proper transparency in this establishment of committee on what criteria the members were selected, etc. And even there is also a contradiction between the government claims and as well as National Green Tribunal orders regarding the prohibited zones. So you know that in ecological sensitive areas, if you are going for any development project, whether it is sustainable, no, right? So even though government why came up with this project? Okay, so even we have to focus on the public engagement, public debates are going on regarding this project and as well as participation of the people and scrutiny, etc. And we have to think about what will be the long-term implications of this project. So what does this project is about? So this project, it is around 72,000 crores and it is focusing on infrastructure development in this Great Nicobar Island. And this project, which is including mainly international container transshipment terminal, that is nothing but port development. And this one is they are focusing on Greenfield International Airport. So what is Greenfield and what is Brownfield? What is Greenfield? Okay. So if you are going for first hand, Greenfield, second hand, Brownfield. So this is as simple as that. And next one is they are also going for development of 2 new Greenfield cities, and they are focusing on mass rapid transport system, and they are also focusing on free trade zone. So from these 5 points, there is a chance of getting a prelims question like which of the following are going to be developed under this Nicobar development projects of Government of India. So in this way also you can get question and you have to focus on these 5 things. And what is significance of this project? So first one is, as you all know that Andaman and Nicobar is very near to Strait of Malacca. It is one of the important choke point for the trade. So here it is acting as a main waterway which is connecting Indian Ocean as well as Pacific, that is Strait of Malacca, and the location of this Andaman and Nicobar Island is very near for that. So for the strategic position, so we can increase the role of India in this region and as well as global maritime economy. For that we are using this. So for that only we are going for development of this transshipment terminal here. And this one is for geosecurity concerns. So as you all know that there is increased focus on now Indo-Pacific region, and there is a power shift from west towards east which happened. So because of this, even you know that China is coming up with string of pearls. It is developing naval hotspots in different areas in this Indian Ocean region. So we can use this Andaman and Nicobar Islands to counter this China's string and pearls initiative. And next one is, even we can also upgrade our military infrastructure in this region if you're going for development of this Nicobar region. And this one is, even it will be also helpful for our economic boost. For example, if you're having this port, what happens? There will be trade will be happening here, and it will be acting as a station where there is exchange of goods will be happening. So here we will be also generating some economy that will be contributing for our GDP, that will important for the economic growth of the country. And this one is, whenever we are developing some infrastructure, obviously it can create employment opportunities at the local level, and even we can increase the standard of living of local people, and even it will also leads to tourism development. And even we'll be getting some social benefits. Now these tribal people who are present there, they will be getting some quality education, quality health services, and adequate infrastructure. And even we can also achieve this concept of Digital India initiative. So these are some important aims and advantages of this project. And let us see the next article. Common practice standards must have India outlook. So what this article is talking about? Do you know about this agroforestry? What is this concept called as agroforestry? Agroforestry, tell me fast. Time is running out, sir will come. Agroforestry. Come on. Social forestry, agroforestry. I think, have you heard at least these words in your environment somewhere? Agroforestry, social forestry, urban forestry. Urban forestry, I said many times about Miyawaki method. What is this Miyawaki method is about? Urban forestry method that we adopted from Japan. Okay, so what is agroforestry? Agro means agriculture. Forestry, forest. Okay, I will give you a question on this agroforestry and social forestry today. Then you will be reading on that. If I tell here, you will be not remembering. If you do some research, then only you will remember. Okay, so actually this article is talking about India has a very huge potential for agroforestry, and here we are focusing on afforestation, reforestation and revegetation concepts. Okay, so here this article is saying that India's agroforestry sector has immense potential to enhance our carbon finance. How? We can go for afforestation, we can go for reforestation, revegetation. But here we are not doing as much as expected potential that we are having. So here this article is raising some concerns about India's work for this ARR projects. So actually what are the problems here is in our Indian agriculture landscape, the important problem is fragmentation of land holdings. So because of right of inheritance, right? So for example, if a person who is having 10 acres of land, if he is having 2 sons, so the 2 sons will be dividing this 10 acres into 5 acres and 5 acres. And the next generation, if they are having 5 sons each, again 1 acre, 1 acre. So here what happening, the land holdings is becoming very, very small and fragmented because of this rights of property inheritance, right? So because of India's agricultural landscape is characterized by small and fragmented land holding, so it is now making it very crucial to adapt carbon finance. So if we want to go for any agroforest, like developing a forest in our agricultural land and nearby, so because of this problem, so we are not going. For example, if for a family they are having like 10 acres together, if there is no inheritance of property, then what happened for 1 to 1.5 acre? So they will be going for social forestry or agroforestry, right? And remaining area they will be going for doing agriculture. So, but if you are having just 1 acre of land, do you go for any forestry? Can you go for sowing of any plants or trees in your land? No, you'll be saying that I am having very less amount of land, so I have to do only agriculture so that my family will be sustaining all the food grains that I am getting from that land, right? So this is the one important problem that we are having regarding enhancing of agroforestry to control this climate change. And this one here is the current common practices, they often excludes beneficial practices by small landholders. So that means whenever you are getting any government scheme, so it will be benefiting only large landholders but not small landholders. Again, this is one important problem why there is no proper agroforestry in our country. And next one here is agroforestry can significantly enhance carbon sequestration. That means whenever we are going for increasing of trees growing etc in our land, that will absorb as much as carbon. So whenever we are not going for this agroforestry, can we decrease this carbon sequestration? No. So that is a one important problem. And even whatever the government supporting policies or financial initiatives which are focusing on this agroforestry sector, so they are not reaching full potential because they are not going to this small and marginal farmers. And next one here is even there is lots of income diversification which is happening. Like whatever the amount which is given for this ARR projects, we are not using for that. we are using for other projects like unpredictable weather and as well as climatic challenges, and we are diverting that money for sustainable rural livelihoods. Because the problem here is we have small land holdings. Even if the government is providing some support, the people, they are not coming forward to adopt that, so that they are going for other diversions. And this one here is, if you're focusing on this agroforestry, we will be having lots of advantages, like we can improve soil health, we can improve fertility of soil, water retention, we can reduce erosion, and also we can promote long-term agricultural productivity and sustainability. But because of not focusing on this agroforestry, again we are having decreasing of productivity of our agriculture. So can we connect like this? Okay. And next one is, we need to focus on research and implementation. Some institutions like theory are saying that yes, we have to go for better practices and we have to focus on improved outcomes for the farmers, and as well as we have to integrate these farmers with environment. Okay, see this article, bridging the chasm of global inequality. So what is this article? From last 6 days, I think so, we are talking about United Nations Summit for Future. So here in United Nations Summit for Future, so what they talked about global inequality. For example, it is talking about United Nations security reforms. There is no proper representation of Asia and Africa. So is it leading to global inequality? That is the thing which mainly said. And from which subject you can deal with this, from GS paper to IR, right? Okay, now let us see the highlights of this United Nations Summit of Future. So United Nations Summit of the Future, so what its aim, it is focusing on especially reforming and strengthening of international governance. And this summit, it is focusing on addressing contemporary global challenges. So can you tell me some contemporary global challenges that you are having from the recent past, from 2 to 3 years onwards? Russia-Ukraine issue, China's aggressive policy, yeah, Israel-Gaza issue. And can you talk about piracy? Next, terrorism, cyber security. Next, what are the issues we are having? Okay, so to address that global challenges, we have this United Nations Summit for Future. And actually this summit, which builds on recent efforts like 2022 United Nations Environment Stockholm 50+ conference, and we are also focusing on High Seas Treaty. So how we know what is the high seas and what is this exclusive economic zones? According to UNCLOS, United Nations Law of Convention of Seas. So we are following that for better multilateral solutions for better tomorrow. So actually in this meeting they talked about Pact for Future. So in this Pact for Future, they focused on accelerating of sustainable development goals. So how many are there? 17. And what is the target year? 2030. So can we achieve that? Okay. So and also we have this Paris Agreement for Climate Action. What is this Paris Climate Deal is about? We have to decrease what? Global warming by what's the percent? 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees when we compare to pre-industrial levels, that is from 1990s. And the Global Digital Compact, which promotes equitable access to technology, and it is also saying that we need to have equitable access to technology such that every country will be getting benefit from transfer of technology. And even they are focusing on first a universal agreement on artificial intelligence and governance. So actually we studied one article like because of increasing of use of artificial intelligence, we are having both positives and as well as negatives. To control negatives, we need to have the law. So that is the thing which already had focused in this United Nations Summit for Future. And what is India stand? So how India used this summit? For example, you can take about how our environment secretary gave the statements. We should not focus on only carbon dioxide emissions. We have to focus on sustainability, livability. Like we need to change our lifestyle to adapt to this climate change. And even our Prime Minister, he focused on cyber security, maritime security, and also he focused on reforms in United Nations Security Council, right? And we focused on even AI governance and digital cooperation from the different countries. And if you see why we need United Nations reforms now, because it is outdated. So who are the members? We have 15 members, 5 are P5 and 10 are temporary members. Temporary members, what is the tenure? 2 years of tenure, right? And if any resolution which are going to pass in this United Security Council, these P5 members, they are stopping it by their veto powers. So because of this, we are saying that there is outdated structure, and even there are disparities globally. Like there is increased representation of European countries and Western countries compared to of Eastern countries like Asian countries and African countries. Now Asian and African countries, they want increased representation. And actually what is the member now? Like 15 members. So they are asking that we have to increase it to 25 or 26. And next one here is, even because of veto power which is having with these countries, so almost these countries are developed countries which are having technologically advancements. So they are not sharing the technology to the other countries. Again, we need to focus on this. If you want to face this challenge or address this current challenges of climate change, sustainable development, economic inequalities, we need to get technology, right? So for this also, we need to have increased representation. And do these problems of global south will be heard in this organization if these global south countries are not part of this United Nations Security Council? No. So for that, we need to have equitable resource or equitable representation. That is the thing. And I gave one mains question. So it is not for you offline guys. For offline guys, I will be giving you the question on agroforestry and social forestry. 2 questions today. Okay, so that's all. These are the important current affairs which appeared in our today's Hindu newspaper. So by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much for watching, and please do like this class and share this class to your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to Rathod Science Academy. Thank you for watching.